What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Of course, you know it's your boy B-Hop Radio Shout in, stepping in the building. I got a guy that's not only an icon and a legend and a guy that put it down for the town in Atlanta and hip-hop in general, but also just a whole world-renowned thespian up in this thing, man.
Not a thespian. I love it. I love it.
I'm talking about speech, arrested development. What's going on with it, boss?
Man, I'm doing good, bro. I'm doing good. It's good to see the brother. I love the whole display you got up here. This is dope. This is dope.
Yeah, no, I got to put it down for the town speech, but I mean, I'm here to get the story, son.
Okay, word up.
Okay, coming out of Milwaukee, man.
Yeah.
When did that music bug hit you, and what was it like growing up in Milwaukee?
Well, Milwaukee's one of the toughest places to live as a black person, statistically.
Yeah.
And so there's a huge disparity between how blacks are treated, how whites are treated, and it has been historically. So it was tough. But it was also, an interesting thing because I was the only black kid in an all-white neighborhood.
Oh my God!
Probably a middle class, not lower middle class, like a middle class neighborhood, and that was tough because, I was born in 1968. Well, that was the same year, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated.
That's right.
So there was a lot of unrest the year I was born. Growing up around that atmosphere of all-white neighbors meant, they didn't like our family. We was the only black family in the entire neighborhood.
Yeah.
And actually, a Jewish family owned the house that we ended up owning before us, and they were getting harassed and, oppressed, and so they wanted to leave. And they said, well, we're going to sell this house to y'all cheaper so that at least somebody of color or that's marginalized is going to be in this same house that we was in. So that's how my mom got in the house. So yeah, it was rough. It was rough, man. Like a lot of racism, but a lot of beauty too, because it was a nice neighborhood.
Okay.
Like it was a really beautiful, had a lot of parks and stuff like that. So it was an interesting dynamic, hot and cold, you know what I'm saying?
When did the music bug hit you though,
So the music bug got me when, two things. When I first saw the Michael Jackson show, they used to have a TV show back in the day.
Yeah.
And that did it for me. Like I was like, man, Michael Jackson, the Jackson 5 was incredible.
Yeah.
And so I loved it then. And then my dad was a serial entrepreneur, so he started a nightclub as one of his businesses. It's called the Fox Trap.
Yeah.
And at the Fox Trap, I would just watch people dancing, man, and just like seeing the power of music on people's souls and how their lives were transformed by music. I wanted to be a part of that. You know what I'm saying? So I learned how to DJ from his DJs. Now I'm at that time I'm 12 years old. And they're obviously grown people, and they would teach me how to DJ. I started DJing at that nightclub at age 13.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I started DJing.
At what point, though, Speech, did you realize you needed to make your way down to the A-Town, sir?
It was pretty soon because, like I was saying, Milwaukee was getting more and more violent. Like the crack epidemic was reaching Milwaukee in a big way.
Yeah.
Because it was ravishing Chicago. Now, Chicago's only 90 miles away from Milwaukee, so it's about an hour and a half drive.
Exactly.
So a lot of people was coming from, fleeing Chicago's violence, coming to Milwaukee, realizing there was a game, like there was a lot of open field in Milwaukee, starting their operations in Milwaukee, so it was getting violent.
Yeah.
My day of graduation, I had a guy pull a gun on me.
What?
And I said, you know what, I know that I'm going to die here if I don't get out of here. So I left Milwaukee, came to Atlanta, and that was it. The day I graduated, I drove to Atlanta, me and my uncle.
What was going through your mind the day of your graduation when somebody wants to pull a gun on you?
Yeah, I realized, well, prior to that, I used to throw parties. I was a real popular DJ in Milwaukee called DJ Peach.
Yeah.
And I used to throw parties there all the time. The last party I threw, dudes came in with automatic weapons. They was trying to take up the house. This is at my house.
Oh, my God.
So I knew that the climate was changing. Like this was gonna be a thing.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like this was gonna be rough.
Something I don't feel like getting used to.
Yeah, exactly right. So I said, you know what, I gotta get up out of here. So I realized like if I don't leave, I'm gonna die. And it's funny, it's not funny, but you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of my friends did die. You know what I'm saying?
God.
I had a rap crew at the time named Attack. And it was me, a dude named Kemet, who lives here now. I don't know if you know DJ Kemet. DJ Kemet. His name was Special K back in the day. So me,
Okay.
DJ Kemet, he's from Milwaukee.
Yeah.
And a brother named T.A. Wiz. T.A. Wiz was murdered about 2 years after I left. So, you know, I felt like it wasn't gonna work out if I stayed.
Exactly. Now, when you touched down in Atlanta, what was that transition like for you? What were you expecting when you got here, and what did you find?
Well, I fell in love with the South in general
Yeah.
when I used to go. I spent all my summers in Tennessee.
Okay.
So my grandmother, my dad's from Tennessee, and my grandmother lived in Tennessee.
Okay.
So I knew the South was someplace that I would like. I liked the whole, just the way people were more kind down here.
Yeah.
And I was bad at school, so I got basically a pass to be able to go to the Art Institute of Atlanta here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And so that's the only reason I came to Atlanta instead of Tennessee, for instance. I went to Atlanta, and I loved it here because unlike Milwaukee, where if you were black, by and large, you were probably poor. And if you were white, you probably were doing quite well. This is
Yeah.
Milwaukee. When I came to Atlanta, I saw a lot of black people doing well.
Exactly.
Like comparatively. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I was like, wow, and everywhere I went, no matter what side of town I went on, there was black people there. Whereas in
Exactly.
Milwaukee, it was sort of a black area, and then
Yeah.
the rest of it was white. So it was very different being here. And then, you know, I got embraced by the West End. Like, it was a lot of
Yeah.
cultural people. So it was like, you know, babas who played
Yeah.
drums and djembes and like teaching natural health, and then
Yeah.
sisters with cloths on, and like it just was a whole different vibe. And I
That's
was
true.
like, it felt like what I was getting into. You know what I'm saying? So I just felt really at home on the West End,
Yeah.
the college area, the
Yeah.
universities. And I met a brother named Headliner who was in the group.
Yeah.
And he was a great barber, so he would cut right there down there at the West End. And so
Yeah.
he had a great, sort of place that we could hang out at, and we just hung in the West End.
My God. So
Yeah.
now, how did we form Arrested Development?
So I knew I wanted to start a crew when I got here, because I
Okay.
told you I had a crew in Milwaukee, but that had to go ahead and I had to leave that, come here, and start over. So I put up a flyer at the Art Institute of Atlanta, and this dude Timothy Barnwell, who I ended up nicknaming Headliner.
Yeah.
He was looking at the flyer and he was like, man, this is cool. I said, yo, so I started talking to him. We became friends. Then I started this group with him, and then got other members like Ishi. I was telling you about Ishi, who's
Yeah.
from here. She became our dancer, and just grew from there, and just grew. But yeah, that's how I started.
How did you
Back
know
in
what
87.
kind of... In 87?
87, bro. Yeah.
Okay, so the hip-hop bug had already hit you in 87.
Oh, before that, yeah, it hit me in 79.
In 79?
Yeah, when I heard Rapper's Delight,
Okay.
I was
Okay.
done.
Yeah.
I was cooked. I was cooked, bro. That was it. Yeah.
So you telling me that Arrested Development was forming in 87?
87 we started, yeah.
Okay, so when
Yep.
it came to developing the sound of Arrested Development, how did
Yeah.
you know in what direction y'all would go?
That's a great question, bro, because it was an evolution and a process. Because
Yeah.
when we first started, we weren't called Arrested Development. We were called
Okay.
Secret Society.
Okay.
And you probably know DJ Nabs.
Yeah, I know now.
Yep,
Yeah.
Nabs used to DJ for us back in these days.
Mm.
And you probably know Ian Burke. Maybe you don't know. Yeah, Ian Burke
Mm-hmm. I know Ian.
He used to be my roommate.
Oh my God.
So Ian Burke was my roommate. Jermaine Dupri at the time was probably 14, 15.
Yeah.
And me and him did tracks together
Oh
at his
my
house, at his
God.
mom's house, back when he was too young to have a house.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm saying? Like, it was back in them days. Dallas
Yeah.
Austin, like all of them. He was with Joyce Irby back in these
Yeah.
days. And he used to do records with her. So it's like, it's crews like that, people that was all striving to do our thing, you know what I'm saying? And it just jumped off like that. So yeah.
Now I gotta ask you about that time at the same time speech. I mean, seeing the young Nabs, Kemet,
Yep.
JD,
Yep.
everybody doing their thing early on. Did you believe that y'all would go off to have massive success, or were y'all just doing y'all thing? Because
Doing our thing.
everybody blew the hell up.
Blew the hell up, bro.
Dallas Austin blew
Dallas
the hell
Austin,
up. You see
Jermaine
what I'm
Dupri,
saying?
Arrested Development.
Come on.
Yeah, no, it was definitely. But I will say the hunger was so strong that we felt like we could and should be able to do something.
Okay.
Because really the South wasn't getting respect at that time. You know what I'm saying? We
Exactly.
had artists like Kilo that was already making a move down
Exactly.
here. But It wasn't MC Shy D, shout
Yeah.
out to him, but it wasn't getting that nationwide respect. If you
crossing over the
remember,
mainstream.
exactly. And so back in those days, the only Southern groups that was getting mainstream success was Ghetto Boys and Two Live Crew down in Miami at that time.
Yeah.
Mainstream success. So I mean, the South hadn't really made its mark just yet, and so we were all hungry and just really striving to do what we could. Jermaine had a group back then called Silk Times Leather.
Okay.
And they were the first group, first hip hop scenario to get signed to a major label here. And I think they were on Geffen Records.
Yeah.
And so we were all inspired with Jermaine being so young and doing that. We was like, we could do this too. And we just kept pushing. And, you know, like I said, I would chop it up with Jermaine and Dallas and all of these brothers. And we was just keep chopping it up until it finally blew up.
I mean, 3 years, 5 months, and 2 days in the life, man. I mean, that's how long it took to blow up.
Literally, that's when we started shopping the record deal. We started counting down.
Yeah.
And you know, like most artists, you hope it's gonna be soon. You know, so you start off, you hope like next month we gonna blow up. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, next month we straight.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen. So it's just like month after month, year after year. And we finally got that deal. It was a single deal, actually. We got, and it was 3 years, 5 months, 2 days.
Oh my
Countdown. Yeah.
So when y'all put together that album, I mean, what was the mindset going into this initial album? And did you know that you was going to have some groundbreaking singles coming off of this thing?
You know, we definitely didn't know it would be as big as it was.
Yeah.
We were all about, and still are, but revolution, man. We wanted to turn the tables, bro.
Yeah.
We wanted black people to be represented as intelligent, forward-thinking, incredible people, excellent. We wanted to have the South as recognized as intelligent, amazing, self-determination oriented. Like, we was going to make some things happen down here. So that's what our mindset was. We had a very, like, anti-establishment mindset. You know what I'm saying? Like, we against how the industry is treating us right now. We trying to make this thing do something different. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I mean, Tennessee, People Every Day, and Mr. Window.
Yeah, those were the 3 biggest hits.
What was it like putting those songs together? So let's start with Tennessee. When y'all went in there, what was the thought process behind all that, and then the creative process as well?
Yeah, Tennessee was the last song we did for the album.
My
So
God.
the whole album was done, and horrible things happened that made me write Tennessee. So then I had my grandmother, who I said I spent all my summers with, she passed away of a heart attack.
My God.
So me, Headliner, who was my best friend at the time, me, Headliner, my brother, my mother, father, we all went down to Tennessee to go to her funeral. And we left there with like this sense of, you know, when people die, you usually get some gift from them. That's how I believe. So like some part of their character comes into you all of a sudden, and you feel like you could do things that they used to do really well. You sucked at. So I mean, I was just like inspired by her life. And in that same week, my brother died.
Oh my God.
And he died of an asthma attack.
Oh.
And so I wrote the song Tennessee because it was the last place I saw her, which was at her funeral.
Yeah.
And then him, who was at her funeral that the week before. So you know, like like the lyrics, like, Lord, I've really been real stressed, down and out, losing ground, although I'm black and proud. Problems got me pessimistic. Brothers and sisters keep messing up. Why does it have to be so damn tough? I don't know where I can go to let these ghosts out of my skull. My grandma passed. My brother's gone. I never at once felt so alone. So, you know, it's just like talking about what was going on at the time. And, you know, it became a song that obviously millions and millions of people related
with everybody.
Exactly.
But for you, though, at that time, Speech, how the hell did you keep going on? Because that could have easily caused a pause for the cause.
Facts. That is facts. You know, I think for me, I'd always channeled my frustrations into the music.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm like a blues artist that way. So, like, I always write about the stuff that's going on in my life at the time. You know what I mean? And so that was how I chose to sort of, you know what I'm saying, channel that grief and pain, man. Yeah.
People Every Day.
Yeah,
I mean, another classic that, I mean, all of these records are still getting played in full rotation to this day, okay?
Facts.
You go cut on the radio, you go hear it.
Facts.
So what was it like when y'all went on ahead and lifted y'all voices on that one?
Yeah, no, that was a deep song too, because one of the things that was happening a lot in hip hop was trying to find its way. So like, I lived in Milwaukee. So what happened? We didn't get a like. My mom said, okay, you could go to Atlanta, and if you don't get a record deal in 2 years, you need to come back to Milwaukee and go to college.
Yeah.
So that was our deal, my mom and dad and myself. So we didn't get a record deal in 2 years, as you know. It's 3 years, 5 months. So I had to go back to Milwaukee, went to college. And in Milwaukee, by this time, I got a lot more consciousness. Like I'm wearing dashikis, I've got locks, and I'm talking about Black Power and how we could change this and that. But then some brothers in the community wasn't down with that. So like they would see me at the park with my lady, and that's what the whole song is about.
Exactly.
So then they messing with me because I look different.
Yeah.
And I'm not wearing this, that, and the third. So then they mess with me, and that's how the song came about.
Well, that song, that verse is, it's clear. You painted the picture so well.
I was resting at the park. Yeah, exactly.
Just trying to have a good time.
Exactly right.
And then these fools come up with this craziness.
Exactly right.
Ass out here.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Which I think why it resonated, because I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Everybody
You know what I'm
feels
saying?
like
Like,
that. It's
yo,
a fool somewhere that you
exactly
gotta
right.
whoop their ass.
Exactly right. Facts. You know what I'm saying?
That's why I love that song so much
Thank
too,
you,
because
man.
it just represented the everyday
struggle.
The struggle.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? You try
Facts.
to do right, but it's just always some kind of negative voice
Right,
coming out
exactly.
of nowhere, and
Facts.
you got to stand up to it too.
Facts,
now.
you do.
You can't let it
gotta
overtake
stand
you.
it. No, you can't let it overtake you.
So now, other than that, now we got to go with that Mr. Window.
So I mean, it's
that one
funny.
goes crazy.
Thanks, man. It's funny. Literally driving here, I passed Edgewood, and we used to have a studio down in Edgewood, a little makeshift studio.
Yeah.
And a lot of homeless men would be up there, and so they come to the studio. A lot of friends that I had would turn them away, but me and Headliner was like, "No, come on in, man. Sit down. We here all day."
Yeah.
So we start talking, and just the things that they'd start sharing was so deep, and it was so rich, like full of humanity that it surprised me, because I thought a bum is a bum. That's how I thought at the time. Now I'm like 18, 19. I'm like, whatever. But then I'm hearing them speak, and I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
This could be any one of us, because they started speaking about how they became homeless, why they were homeless, what exactly happened.
I mean, if you tell somebody that your grandmama and your brother started in the same week,
there you go.
it cause you to be homeless.
Exactly right. Right. So it's it was great, because I was inspired by these dudes, and so then that song came from that. You know what I'm saying? So it's blues music, at the end of the day.
Putting those visuals to those songs, though, man. What was that like when it came time to shoot those rap videos, and you were like, okay, these folks about to get a load of speech out here?
Yeah, no doubt about it. We wanted to do, on purpose, we wanted to do like videos that changed the narrative of what hip hop was doing, or at least added to the narrative. I should say that. We didn't want to change it. We just wanted to add to it.
Exactly.
We started showing rural South. Like if you see the Tennessee video, a lot of people in New York thought that was like a set. That we had made some type of historical set to make it look like slave days or something. I was like, no, this is right now.
Like this now.
Right, exactly. This is just out in this is out in the sticks right now. So that's like, we did that on purpose to try to show people the South in a different way. Without the term Dirty South, we was showing the Dirty South. You know what I'm saying? And it's like People Everyday video, same thing. Great people directed those videos, like Keith Ward, who goes by Future now. He directed our Mr. Window video and a lot of other stuff for us that didn't come out, but it did come out, but it wasn't music videos. And then a brother named Otis Salid, who did a lot of Spike Lee's movies. Yeah. In fact, he did the X movie, Malcolm X as well. And which we were featured on with Revolution. Yeah. He's a beast, and he did our People Everyday video. And a brother named Milcho from overseas actually did our Tennessee video.
What was it like getting on that Malcolm X soundtrack? Because I mean, that movie was a pivotal movie in our lives, sir. So I mean, to be able to touch that soundtrack at that time, how did that even come about?
So I've been a Spike Lee fan since I was since I was really young, from school days on out, and even She's Gotta Have It. Yeah. So, I wrote a letter to Spike Lee, just a handwritten letter. This was before email and all of that, and sent it in the mail. He never responded, so I didn't think he had any interest in what we was doing. Yeah. But we were at a club in New York called Sweet Jane's, and packed club, great night.
Yeah.
And Spike Lee was backstage waiting on us when we got on stage. And I was like, what is going on? This is the Spike Lee in the back, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited. And so we started chopping it up, and he wanted us to do a movie about John Coltrane at first, that he was going to do called Love Supreme.
Yeah.
He ended up doing Mo Better Blues, which starred Denzel Washington, and then so we sort of just and Gangstar, great hip hop crew, did the soundtrack for Mo Better Blues. But then he called us back when it was time for his X film, and he said, "Yo, now it's time. Let's do." And it turned out I Arrested Development did a record called Hip Hop Saves Lives. Last year.
Okay.
And Chuck D is on that record with us from Public Enemy. And Chuck was at the video shoot, and he said, "Yo, you know, I got you the Malcolm X gig."
What?
I'm like, "What?" He said, "Yeah." He said they wanted Public Enemy to do it.
Oh my God.
But we were doing some other stuff, and he said, "You need to get speech from an Arrested Development." And so I didn't even know that. So the reason Spike came to the club was because Chuck had told him to check us out.
Oh my goodness.
Me and Chuck are boys. Like, we're friends.
You doggone right, y'all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he's my guy. You know, he's my hero too in hip hop. So like, so Chuck actually, you know, got him to consider us.
Okay, Speech. Answer me this though, man. Having that kind of an influence at that time.
Yeah.
What was that like for you, being able to say, you know what, I'm reaching millions of people, but I'm reaching millions of people with a positive message in the culture that could not be positive all the doggone time?
Facts, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I felt like this is exactly what we needed, you know, and I still feel like that. I feel like, you know, we're a people that have been oppressed for 500 years now. 500 years.
My God.
You know what I'm saying?
That's
like,
crazy.
that's a lot of time to have been oppressed by the same oppressor. And it's been time, and it's still time for us to rise above that, change the narratives, give us new things to think about, speak about, rhyme about. So that's what we was on. And, you know, for us, it was great because it was like, okay, we're going to talk about revolution. We're going to talk about, you know, Nelson Mandela and freeing him. We ended up meeting Nelson Mandela in South Africa. So like, freeing him because he was in prison at the time. We're going to talk about ending apartheid. We're going to talk about the oppression right here in the States. So we just talk about that. And to me, it was a good look. You know
rapping about freeing Mandela, then going to meet him speech.
Going to meet him.
Tell me that story, please.
Bro, it was one of the highlights of my entire life. So we went to South Africa to shoot a video called United Front. Yeah. And we shot that with Antoine Fuqua, who does he did what's the movie with Denzel when he said I'm a
Training Day.
He did that, and he did a ton of other like top-notch
excellent movies.
Excellent movies. Yeah. So he directed that with me, and he was the main director. I was just, you know what I'm saying? I was trying to come up, but he was the real director. Yeah. So anyway, we did that with him in South Africa. We got a chance. We had donated about 20 grand to Nelson Mandela at the time in the ANC, and Nelson had just got out of prison. He had become president. The nation of South Africa was in, like, because I don't think people understand how apartheid happened was, I'm sort of exaggerating, but not really. On a Monday, black people in South Africa was living middle-class lives, homes, made, like, cars, just chilling. Yeah. And on a Tuesday, they created a law called apartheid where those blacks had to leave their own property and go to shanty towns, which was made out of corrugated metal and, you know, and they were in poverty in one day. They had a house today, and tomorrow they were in poverty because of new laws. That's why this whole Trump thing scares me, but that's another conversation. So, so people that was in apartheid were very scared of how the government worked because the government's back then it was all white. Yeah. But the entire population was black. So 93% black, 7% white. Oh my goodness. Which it still is today. And the whites are the ones on top. Yeah. Still is like that right now. Yeah. As far as money and finances. So so when Nelson Mandela became president, it was a shaky time for them because they was like, okay, these white leaders gave Nelson Mandela the opportunity to become president. Is this going to last? Is this going to be a thing that's for real, or are they going to take this back from us?
Yeah.
So when we got to the stadium, which is where we met Nelson Mandela, it was about a 20,000 seat stadium. They were celebrating a massacre of, celebrating the kids. It was 16 kids that got massacred in
Soweto?
In Soweto. Thank you. Yeah. And so they were celebrating their lives. And so Nelson Mandela was scheduled to speak. I spoke right before him, which was amazing. 20,000 people. And then we got a chance to speak with him before he got on the podium. And I got a picture of it, man. It's one of the, and I will say this. I had never seen in my entire life the entire people of a nation feel so much love for their president.
Oh my goodness.
It was slightly like that with Obama when he first got into office here in the States, but it was way bigger than even that with Nelson Mandela. People were it was like superstardom, like the Beatles, because he represented freedom for them, and he had been in prison, 10 decades.
Yeah, forever.
Innocent, and was released, and now he's president. So if you could imagine how that felt to the people, it was amazing, man.
Had you ever been to Africa before then?
Yes, but when I was 2. So I have some relatives. Yeah, exactly. I have some relatives from Africa.
Okay.
So when I was 2, my mom and dad took me to Africa to Kenya.
Yeah.
And but I don't remember much, obviously.
What was the vibe when you touched down in South Africa as a grown man this time? But then you were a man on a mission,
bro. It was.
You weren't just going there for vacation and fucking around. I didn't say it like that.
No. I hear
you was a man on a mission. So talk to me about that,
bro. You hear about Africa, and especially during those times, everyone's poor, everyone's flies on their eyes, and saying their stomach is bloated, and like that's what you're hearing. You know what I'm saying? That's the images we got of Africa. You get there, high rises and luxury buildings, and everyone's black. Like that's another thing. Being raised here in the United States as a black person, we are the minority in this country.
Yeah.
So we're used to being surrounded by white things, white people, white concepts, white laws. And that's not even a diss to white people. It just is what it is.
Exactly.
That is how you are raised here.
Yeah.
You get there and it's flipped. All the commercials, every actor is black. Every product is a black-owned product. Every store that you walk past is black-owned stores. The crossing guard is black to the president is black. Everything is black. So you're now you're the majority, and the whites are the minority. It's a different flip. It's like another planet in a sense. But it felt great. And let me say this too. I know everyone has had their own experience, but my experience, I've been to Africa probably 20 times now. My experience is every time I've ever been there, they welcomed us, not just because we were famous, with open arms. In fact, on that famous tip, when we first got there, sorry, I'm just running off, but there's so much to talk about.
Take your time.
When we first got there, we're rich compared to the people that we were meeting.
Yeah.
They would not let us pull our wallet out for nothing. They made sure we ate. They made sure that we were comfortable. They showed us what our culture originally was like what black culture really was about.
Exactly.
Which is serving and, community, and we're here for each other. Like that was it. And it was amazing, man. I always had great times being there.
That's awesome. Now, I mean, coming out of Milwaukee, making your way down here to the A-Town, being in the West End, and then you dropping an album that goes crazy.
Yeah, 5 times platinum.
Come on. How does your life change when you become a celebrity, though?
In every way, bro. In every way. And in fact...
And were you prepared for it?
No. I don't even think you can prepare for it. Okay. Now, I will say the younger artists now, like I'm looking at a plaque with Lil Baby, and I do think hip-hop has been around for so long now that artists like Lil Baby can look at whoever he was inspired by and say, okay, when I get on, or if I get on, I'm going to try it like this, or I'm going to follow their path. You know what I'm saying? We didn't have that. Like I was telling you with Jermaine and all of us, we didn't have nobody in hip hop that was doing what we were trying to do prior to us on a nationwide bigger level. And so it just was new ground. And that's like, so it was hard. It was hard to adapt to fame. Not to mention it's your first album. You know, a lot of groups, like even Tribe Called Quest, they had albums that came out that weren't as big first, and then it grew.
Yeah.
Ours wasn't like that. It's the first album. You know what I'm saying? The first album was our biggest album. So that's a weird thing to feel when you just getting your feet wet. You know what I'm saying?
When you're walking through the streets and everybody's recognizing you, though, how are you dealing with this newfound fame?
It was tough, man, but it was, you know, obviously it was beautiful too, but it was tough.
Yeah.
On the women tip, it was great. You know what I'm saying?
Come on now.
You know what I'm saying? It was great because you know it's like it was very easy to get, you know, but on every other tip, like I used to live in Lithonia, and my house was you know, being shown to everybody by the real estate agents. So like all the real estate agents was like, well, this is speech from Rest Development's house. So I would have fans waiting outside for me to come out to get my mail or to come out to do anything.
Yeah.
They were sleeping sometimes outside of the house.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, that's a different energy when you have people after you in that way. You know what I'm saying?
So mental health during all of this time, how were you mentally keeping it together when? So and then also was the money changing at the same time?
Money was changing, especially for me because I produce. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I rhyme, so I did the lyrics, but I also produce. I did beats, so publishing more money than I'd ever seen in my life. You know what I'm saying?
God!
But it wasn't nothing compared to what people get now. But back then, we got $75,000 to do our album. Now, what people need to know is like that didn't just go in my pocket. We did the album, so we had to record at a studio with that. Clothing, getting out of our apartments, getting new apartments, moving here, moving there, all of that. All of that together was $75,000. That's not a lot of money, but it was more than I had ever seen.
How did it feel when you started to, you know, go into the upper echelons of Hollywood, but now you're seeing Jermaine Dupri, you're seeing Dallas Austin and people that you grew up with in the game, and y'all are meeting at the top. What was that feeling like?
It was amazing because, I mean, Jermaine, you know, when he came out with Crisscross, that's what his first huge success was, and it was as huge as Michael Jackson at that time.
Exactly.
Like Crisscross, I mean, people don't, I don't think you can really say easily how big they were. Like they were doing private jets. Crisscross was doing like 2 to 3 shows a day, and Navs can attest to all of this because he was their DJ for a while. 2 or 3 shows a day in different markets. So that means private jets, 2 or 3 private jet flights per day.
Crazy.
And opening for Michael Jackson at the height of, you know, one of the heights of his career. Like that's like unheard of. So my point is, Jermaine was by far the biggest success, and then we was second at that time with 5 million. Jermaine, Crisscross, I think, sold, I don't know, 10, 20 million, I forget. And then we sold 5 million. And then later was, of course, TLC, and all of that was Dallas Austin, and the Organized Noise crew came in. So, I mean, all of that was a tad bit later. But yeah, man, it was amazing just to see all of us doing our thing.
How did you feel when Gangster Rap started to take over?
Well, you know, it's funny because Gangster Rap turned out to be the thing that just really never left. Because when we got in the game, NWA was huge.
Okay.
NWA was selling millions of records, you know what I'm saying? And Ice-T was doing good. I mean, so Cube was solo. He was doing great. Even Schoolie D from Philly was doing pretty good. So, I mean, Gangster Rap always had a place. I felt like the goal for us was to try to at least balance the scale.
Exactly.
To where at first it was 80% Gangster Rap and 20% everything else. We was hoping it to be at least 50-50 positive stuff, and, you know. And I think for a second it got there, you know what I'm saying? It got there, you know what I'm saying? It got to be more balanced. Like I'll say in the late 80s, early 90s, you had X-Clan, Brand Nubians, Public Enemy, Poor Righteous Teachers, KRS-One, Arrested Development, Tribe Called Quest, Jungle Brothers, De La Soul. You had Queen Latifah. You had a lot of different conscious acts, and then you had all the gangster acts too. So I mean, we all coexisted. You know, that's to me the best of what black music should be, because I mean there is gangster life in black music, I mean in black culture, but then there's also other styles. So I mean I think all of that should be represented, you know.
when Tupac and Biggie hit the scene, and then next thing you know, they're beefing all over the place.
Yeah.
How do you feel like that impacted hip hop, and what was that like for you witnessing all of that stuff going on?
It was tough because I knew Tupac. I never met Biggie, but I knew
Yeah.
Tupac. When he was here in Atlanta at the Fox, we met, and Tupac was how do you say it? Like, basically, he had two sides to him. He
Yeah.
had the revolutionary side
Yeah.
that I am. He
Yeah.
had that. His mom was in the Panthers.
Yeah.
His uncles, his sort of like father was in the Panthers. He knew that entire side, and he knew the gangster side. So he had both sides sort of flowing through his veins, and he was trying to figure out how to move the masses who are very much influenced by the sort of the gangster style, but also how to move them to a higher level.
Yeah.
So I think he was definitely trying to do that. And to be honest, a manufactured beef happened, because I'll be honest, a lot of the press at that time, because I'm from these times, I saw it firsthand. They had a lot to do with creating this East versus West beef. What really was just a beef between two rappers who actually knew each other and was friends. I mean,
Yeah.
Tupac had Biggie spending the night with him at his crib
Yeah.
before they were beefing, so they knew each other.
Yeah.
But later, because of all the press and the drumming up of the drama, it became a really obviously fatal type of conflict, you know what I'm saying, where both of them would end up being murdered because of this beef, you know.
What was your thought process, or what were your reaction to everything that was going on, witnessing this stuff firsthand and then knowing Tupac?
Yep. It was tough for me because I saw a few things happening at once. First of all, I saw the Telecommunications Act that was passed by Bill Clinton. And I'm a Clinton fan in general, but he
Yeah.
did two things that I'll never, I won't say forgive him for, but I just feel like it was horrible.
Yeah.
One was the Telecommunications Act, which happened in '96. That act allowed major corporations to conglomerate and basically wipe out the little men, right? And so what Bad Boy was able to do was because of that 1996 Telecommunications Act, where Bad Boy was able to do huge records, and hip hop went from never selling out and not crossing over to, let's cross over
Yeah.
and let's become CEOs and let's become moguls and let's
Yeah.
become business people in the wrong way. Business people's great.
Yeah.
But it was all about the money, put it that
Yeah.
way. And so I saw that happening and growing, which would end up making this whole beef become so huge. I mean, the Bad Boy versus, the whole Death Row thing just became a huge beast. And a lot of it corporate run, because these magazines and press at the time knew that this was making major money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so they really... It reminded me of COINTELPRO, where,
Okay, now,
what I'm saying, the FBI was purposely starting beefs between rival gangs and rival black communities in order to gain, basically division and death. And it reminded me of that. So I felt a lot when this was happening. And I felt like Tupac, unfortunately, was a victim to a lot of those things.
It's funny you say that, because I said that's what was going on now. It kind of reminded me of the same thing of what I was seeing going on in hip hop now from a lot of the artists that I had interviewed along the way.
Facts.
It was so crazy for me, Speech, because I mean, from between 2015 to 2025, I probably know about, I don't have enough fingers to count on my hands all the rappers that I've interviewed that have passed.
Oh, facts. Yeah, facts.
So it's like, it just seems a little deeper than rap to me sometimes.
Without a doubt. It is.
When you said that, it just kind of triggered me a little bit.
No, it's real. It's real, bro. Yeah.
So now, y'all get ready to do y'all second album, though, Speech.
Yeah.
What was the mindset going into that? Because, it took you 3 years for the first album.
Yeah,
So it was a lot of hunger, a lot of life stories, a lot of stuff going into that.
Yeah.
This go round, we are rich and famous.
Yeah, it's
So
true.
does the creative process change anyway, or what is that like?
It could have, but for me personally, I was scared of that. So I went to the same kind of cheap studios that I went to, for the first album to do our second album.
Yeah.
But I will say my mindset was scattered, because unfortunately inside the group, me and Headliner, who was best friends, became, rivals at the time, and we was fighting in court sessions.
Yeah.
It was very confusing, very tough, and it had me scattered brain-wise. But I still, tried to get in the studio. Like I told you earlier, like for me, my way of writing is blues. So I mean, I had a lot of blues to talk about. Our first single was called "Ease My Mind" from our second album, and it's talk about I need some time to ease my mind because of all the things that was happening with the group internally. Like it was a lot of stress. Yeah, it was tough.
But you know, you got a lot of love in Japan as well.
Yeah, we didn't know that at the time. I found that out when I started my solo career.
Yeah.
I started a solo career in 96 after AD started. We stopped making music in 95 and we got back together later. But in 96, I started a solo career and I put it out here. I put it out everywhere, but I put it out here. I was looking at the charts and man, it was so low on the charts. I was so frustrated, man. I was like, dang, man, my career is over.
Oh my God.
And then so I just out of curiosity, I went to other charts like Canada, Japan. And I looked, you know, down at the bottom to see where I was in Japan, and I wasn't there. And then I went up to the top to see who was there. Top 10, I wasn't there. Top 2, top 1, and that was me. I was the number 1 artist in Japan. I didn't even know. I was the number 1 artist for 7 weeks straight.
Oh my goodness.
And I didn't even know. So I called my manager, who was Vanessa Williams' husband at the time. His name is Hervé, Ramon Hervé. And I said, yo, check these charts. And he checked it out. He's like, what? And I said, we got to go to Japan. And we did. We booked a tour. It was sold out. It was amazing. Hundreds of fans in the airport waiting for me.
Are you serious?
Yeah, man. No, I'm very serious.
Take me there. I need to go on this trip to Japan with you. What was going through your mind when you were like, okay, I didn't even know I had this much love in Japan.
Exactly right.
And then you get off the plane and it's Ali Boombaye out
Exactly right. Yeah. It was definitely that. It was like, you know, it was needed, bro, because I felt so depressed. You know, I felt so down.
Yeah.
And when I got off the plane and saw hundreds of fans, they had presents for me and gifts and hearts and all of these incredible things. And just to see their faces, I was like, man, God, you are amazing. Like, look at what he's done. Like, it reminds me of the biblical things where it talks about remnants and like God always saves a remnant. And I felt like that with my career. Like, okay, he saved a remnant of fans that was going to still be there for me at my lowest point. Yeah. And that was who they were. You know what I'm saying?
How does it feel when you find yourself at your lowest point at that time leading up into that? I mean, after having massive, crazy success and then things starting to slow down. What were the telltale signs that, you know what, I got to turn this train around, or I need to look at these charts to see where the love is at? Yeah.
No, it was tough. It was tough to, you know, you feel like your life, like the bottom has dropped out. And to be honest, it's easy to dip into things that you can escape with. So drugs or, you know, alcohol or women or what have you. I dipped into women. So then I was just escaping through women, but it wasn't satisfying. So it was just like this endless, I always wanted to have a new woman. And that was what I just did for a while. And then, like I said, when I found out that chart position, I got to Japan, and that changed everything around. I felt like a new reason to live in a sense. You know what I'm saying? Because there was new love there. And later I would find deeper reasons to live besides the fans. But at that time, I wasn't there yet. I was still, the fans were enough. Like the Japanese fans was enough to make me want to live, you know? It's like, okay, this is dope.
Experiencing that and just being able to travel the world, I mean, being able to let this music take you all around this globe. What were some of your favorite experiences outside of America?
A lot of them. Japan is one of them, though. They are so warm, and they're such a disciplined society, man. They are so ahead of us technologically. They're about 10 years ahead of us. So the cars that we like here, 10 years ahead of us. They got better technology, better ways to do it. It's a peaceful society. No guns allowed. There's no gunfire, no massive shootings ever. In fact, if you leave your wallet on the ground there, now Japan's way more crowded than New York is. It's crowded. You'll get your wallet back. It don't matter how much was in it. With all the money in it. Japan is I'm telling you, it's different, bro.
Now, is it because the rules are stricter? Or?
No, it's because their culture is stronger.
Okay.
They still have a culture of not embarrassing their parents, doing right by their parents, their family bloodline. Like that's something big. Now I will say there is pressure there. It's not from the laws, but it's cultural pressure where if you don't do good in school or if you're not doing good at your job, there's a whole forest. I'm not joking. You might have heard of this, where Japanese men and boys and girls are hanging themselves because of the pressure of not disappointing their parents. So there's down and upside.
Yeah, that's a bit much.
Oh, it's way much. So but on the flip side, as an artist going there and going into the venues or the festivals, the care that they take is unprecedented of anything I've ever seen anywhere else, including Europe or Africa, anywhere. So it's just amazing, man. Those people are amazing people.
How do you feel about Atlanta and the trajectory that they experience from, you, Dallas, JD, Rico, and it turning into Black Hollywood from that?
Yeah.
What was that like seeing the city change?
Yeah, I think it's good because I like to see productions being made down here. I will say a lot of the Los Angeles talent behind the scenes are moving to Atlanta in order to take advantage of this stuff here, and not enough of the locals are getting opportunities. I think that is starting to change though, which I'm glad about. I live in Fayetteville, so in Fayetteville there's a Hollywood studio there called Trilliff now. It was called Pinewood. And man, trust me, I moved to the country to be in rural South and like away from it all. It's becoming like Marietta now. It's just like it's a whole nother vibe. But I like it because it's an influx of new energy and a lot of opportunities.
How do you feel about the space that hip hop is in now, though? We're kind of coming out of a dark time where everybody was dying left and right. But how do you feel about where it's at now? I mean, the women have taken over, obviously. But what are your thoughts on this?
I think that unfortunately it's corporate run now. Like, when we were younger, there was a lot of labels. It's 3 record labels now.
That's true.
And everybody's under the same label. Even when you look at the Kendrick Drake beef, they're both under the same label. You know what I'm saying? It's like, everybody's under the same label. And so what that means is that there's a whole lot less people making decisions for all of us. And even radio, and I'm sure you saw this being in radio for 17 years. Like, being in radio too, like the playlist a lot of times is passed down from somewhere else. This is what you will play.
Exactly.
As a DJ, you might have a chance to throw in a couple little joints, but not on rotation.
Exactly.
They gonna tell you what to play.
We gonna let you know.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? So it's tough. You know what I'm saying? I think that it's tough with the music scene now. I feel sorry for artists because the new generation, if they didn't know what I know, like I'm 56, about to be 57. I've lived in eras where you could be fresh as you really want to be as an artist, and there's some music activist in that city will likely take your record and try to break it. It's tough to do now unless you're getting broke in a strip club or, it's a certain type of sound that will get broke. But if you're doing other than that, it's tougher. That's my opinion.
How do you feel about just the music moguls? Because, I mean, there were so many moguls back in the 90s and the early 2000s, and it looks like by the end of it, there were not any left, and the ones that tried to survive wound up in prison.
Yeah, you're talking about Diddy now.
Diddy, Suge Knight.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Irv got it. They had to deal with the feds before he passed, and they were able to beat that. Jay Prince had run-ins with the feds as well, running rap a lot. And you just saw a lot of people catching a lot of drama, moving forward. What were your thoughts on that? And then even where we are with Diddy right now.
Yeah, I personally am not a huge fan of the mogul way of going. So like, to me, I feel like it should be more creatives that really care about the music and not just the money. And then we'll make money because the music is so amazing. So that's what I personally believe in. So I never was a big fan of that. Like, I personally felt like, man, this has got to be more homegrown than the mogul way. I respect the fact that they were successful. I respect that Diddy, probably made close to $1 billion or more. I respect that Jay-Z's making billions. But at the same time, I'm just not a big fan of billionaires, period, and I'm not a fan of that kind of consolidation of power. It's like what Kanye said, no one man should have all of that power.
Yeah.
You know, I just feel that way about it. I just feel like it should be more people, spread that wealth around, way more people. You know?
Why do you think that people are not spreading the wealth around?
I think hip hop has slowly grown into a mogul mindset. You know,
Okay.
I forget the brother's name from Uptown Records.
Andre Harrell.
Andre Harrell, to me, was the first, you know, hip hop mogul that was doing it on that big level that
Yeah.
I think Diddy, Jay-Z, all of them sort of like, okay, Andre Harrell's doing this.
Yeah.
I just feel like it became a trend, and you know, I think that we mistook it as black power when, yeah, it has some power, but I think real black power is when the collective is doing better, not just one or two people.
Yeah.
You know, the collective's got to do better. That's why I like your hats, you know, like arranging this.
Yeah.
This is, to me, this represents a collective. It's different people doing their things.
Exactly.
And you want all of them to do well.
Exactly.
That, to me, is the key. You know what I'm saying?
Russell Simmons, Diddy,
Yeah.
I mean, all of these guys are getting hit with the sexual assaults. What do you think about that? I mean, whether it be Shannon Sharp, it just seems like every, you know, mainstream black male that's blown up, Bill Cosby, is coming knocking on their door at some point in time, whether you take it back to Tupac and Mike Tyson.
Yeah,
all the way up until now. What do you think about that?
I think it's unfortunate because, first of all, it's so effective.
Yeah.
Meaning the population doesn't really know, especially since the Me Too movement.
Yeah.
It seems like we don't know how to respond to when you get those allegations.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to, you know, be disrespectful to the women and say, well, that ain't true.
Yeah.
But you also want to, you know, you also know that for centuries now, they've used those kinds of allegations against powerful black people and black men in particular, where they will tear you down from that allegation. Mm-hmm. And then also, I think it's tough for the newer generations to understand that things ran differently at a certain era, and it's slowly changed.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people in this era is trying to apply the rules of this era to the rules of that era.
Yeah.
It was a different era. People was thinking about it differently. So I just feel like it's messy. Mm-hmm. You know, I think it's messy. I think for the Diddy situation, I personally do not think they will be able to get him for a RICO case because it doesn't seem like a RICO case to me. If they were able to get him for battery to Cassie, I think that would have been an easy case.
Yeah.
But apparently that's
not what they were going for.
Yeah, they're not going for that. So, you know, we'll see.
What advice would you have to artists coming up right now in the game, in this whole digital world? Because how do you feel like the whole digital world affected hip-hop and music in general, the way we receive it, stream it, and monetize it?
Yeah, I personally think we as a people need to get back to owning our own ways of getting our music out. Because I think we still don't actually realize how much of the biggest music is generated, created, and supported by us.
Yeah.
Like, we are the real actual sort of seeds for a lot of this stuff that's happening big right now. And I think if we were able to control our own outlets, I personally wouldn't even go to digital route. I think the streaming thing has killed the income of artists. So I'll say this to say, because I know in America we feel like, well, it's too late, that boat's passed.
Yeah.
But in Japan, they still sell CDs.
Yeah.
They don't even do streaming.
What?
I mean, there's streaming platforms, but they're not nearly as big in Japan because the government's regulated it to where, no, we're not going that route.
Yeah.
We're going the CD route. We're keeping the hard copies.
Yeah.
I think we could, as a people, do the same if we decided to, so that we can change the ecosystem, the financial ecosystem of how things are run. Because right now we're just dealing with what's brought to us. So, you know, Apple brought streaming as far as, you know, the iPod and stuff like that, and Apple Music. And then, you know, of course, Tidal and Spotify, all this stuff has come. They told us all of a sudden we're going to get 0.003% off of each stream.
Yeah.
That was just given to us. We didn't have nothing to do with that.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
So now we just deal with it. Like, okay, well, this is the new thing. This
Exactly.
is how, and we just hustling, trying to make it through. Meanwhile, they're making the rules. We can make rules too. I feel like we can create rules and create music within those rules and change the paradigm.
I feel
That's
that.
what I want to see us do.
The Falcons had that 50 year of hip hop celebration. You were there, speech.
I was there.
What was it like being in that building, seeing all of those legends and being recognized with everybody as one big happy family, man?
It was amazing. It was amazing. It was, you know, I mean, Rico was still alive. He was there.
Rich homie.
Yep. It's funny because we were backstage. And I think for me, because I came from a different era than a lot of the brothers there, so I recognized some of them, and then some of them I didn't really know well. And they would come up to me and be like, yo, I appreciate it. And that just it warmed my heart, man, because sometimes as you get older in this thing, there is ageism. Yeah. And sometimes as you get older, you don't feel that there's a certain respect from the younger generation because they don't know what you've contributed. They don't even know what you're about. Yeah. So it feels weird. And so when you get that love, it feels like, man, it feels good. Like you said, like a homecoming, you know. Come on. Yeah, it felt great.
So now what are we working on now, though, Speech?
So we got a new album that we're doing. Okay. It's called Adult Contemporary Hip Hop. And the title is interesting. It comes out July 4th. Okay. So to me, it's like hip hop artists have grown up with it since the 70s to now. That's right. It's not fair for us to compete against a hip hop artist who's 18 and trying to, make the high school happy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I agree. It's two different worlds. Yeah. We don't have that right now. So right now we're all competing. If Nas released a record today, he's competing with, whoever, you know what I'm saying? Whoever's just dropped today that's younger. And that's not fair. I feel like there needs to be another sort of way to look at this music that's coming from people that's older. So it's like adult contemporary hip hop. It's hip hop that I feel like that the group feels like is cool for people that's maybe 40 and up. You know what I'm saying? And then if you're younger and you like it, we love that. That like we're cool with that. But it's made for them. It's not made for high school kids or young kids.
The creative process behind this new album, though. I mean, did y'all go back in that jam like the old days, or did y'all bring something new in here?
We really actually used the COVID method. You know what I'm saying? Where, because some of the producers are from overseas, like dudes from the UK would send tracks, and then I'd send raps, and then they'd send this. We would go back and forth. So we're using that method on this record a lot. A lot of sending tracks. You know what I'm saying?
Here for that. I'm here for that. Well, I'm gonna be looking forward to it. Now, lastly, Speech. What do you need your fans to know? And if somebody's been looking to book you or contact you, man, how do they get in contact with you?
Well, that's a great question. First of all, we got a show in Stockbridge at on Juneteenth. Okay. It's free. Yeah. And it's going to be crazy. It's at the amphitheater in Stockbridge, so people should come out for that. And then you can reach us at arresteddevelopmentmusic.com, and we got new merchandise. We got all the shows that we're doing, whether it's in Atlanta or anywhere else. We're going to Brazil. We're going to Africa again this year. We just went to Dubai. So yeah, we're touring, man, a lot and releasing what I think is the best music we've ever done, including the Tennessee joints and people. I think we're releasing better music now than we were then. I mean, it doesn't get as much recognition, but I think we are, man. I really do. I think it's Grammy Award winning stuff.
How do you feel being able to travel the world and touching down in these different lands? I mean, which land surprised you the most and you were the most taken aback from when you touched down there?
I like Australia a lot.
Okay.
Australia has this very island-like, laid-back, like Irie vibe. Okay. But it's white folks, but they are cool, laid-back white folks, and they love hip-hop music from the 90s. Like, it seemed like they almost sort of stopped at the 90s and said, "This is where we're gonna park at." And I like that. You know what I'm saying? Because that's where we was at. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yo. So I mean, I like Australia. I love the Aboriginal people. That's the original people there, and they are dope. And they're fighting the same fight we are, against the white people there who colonized them and took their lands and stuff. So we relate with them.
How do you feel about that? Because you're going all over the world, but you're seeing the same fight taking place all over the world.
Yeah, bro. Andre 3000, I think, wore a shirt during one of his concerts. He said, why are all the black people? I forget what exactly they said, but basically it was saying
they catching
that.
hell all over the world.
All over the world. I think us as black Americans don't realize how big the campaign of white supremacy was. It was across the planet.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The biggest killer of people wasn't Hitler. It was Leopold in Belgium, who killed millions of Africans in the Congo. And if you go to Belgium right now, in the town square, and I'm not joking, this sounds crazy. In the town square, they have the scrotums of all the black African military that they slayed and killed, hanging on the walls. I'm not joking. And this was from back hundreds of years ago. The scrotums are built into the walls. You can look at them, like you could see them. My point is that this man is a monster, but he's celebrated, and this is in Belgium. You could go anywhere, UK, you can go to Africa, of course, was colonialism. You know, the Berlin Conference had Europeans only at a table dividing up the country of Africa, saying which part you gonna take. Not buy, not negotiate. We gonna take it. And that's exactly what they did, man. White supremacy is worldwide, it's huge, and it's affecting us everywhere. You know what I'm saying? So
how do you feel about hip hop that used to be a tool to, educate people about certain things like that, and it's not really being used as a tool to move the culture forward anymore?
Exactly. I feel like we would use it as a tool. Now, we would have our other stuff too.
Yeah.
We're always going to have a variety, but corporations don't like it. So they snuff out groups like Arrested Development or PE or Poor Righteous or whatever. They snuff that out. Even Kendrick can only go but so far before they'll snuff him out as well. So J. Cole, same difference. So like, corporations are the ones hampering the ability for us to make sure we speak our truths, because we want to still speak, and we speak it in other areas. If we can do a podcast, we'll do that.
Exactly.
T-shirts, David Banner's got his Black Power fist, the red, gold, and green. All of that's messaging. You know what I'm saying? He's doing that because that's the area he can do it.
Exactly.
If he could do it in his music and still have big success like he used to, then he would do that too.
Yeah.
And I heard him talk about his God box and how he wished it could get even bigger than it was, but he was, it's hampered.
Yeah.
It is, we're facing white supremacy in a lot of areas, and people don't realize that it's not just right here, it's everywhere.
So if we know that we're facing this, what do you think is keeping people from coming together and working together to, make things better for themselves?
Distractions.
Okay.
That's what I think. Distractions. Okay. If we was all talking like we're talking right now every day, we would start planning differently. We'd be thinking differently. You know what, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And instead of doing that, we would start changing our whole regime of the day. The day would be different. But the distractions keep us nice and inundated. You know what I'm saying?
Was there ever any time in this industry that you felt the pressure from, maybe the powers that be or corporations when you had your messaging going out there?
Definitely.
Okay, so how did you deal with that, and at what times did you feel it?
Pretty much right after the first album. When the album did extremely well, bro, sold 5 million albums, made tons. They gave us a $75,000 advance. It made millions upon millions of dollars. Excuse me. Everybody was happy.
Yeah.
Including the labels make more than artists all the time.
Yeah.
So, if we're happy, if we was doing good, they was doing great. And yet, for the second album, they snuffed that out, man. They said, we can't let this stuff. These dudes talking about the MOVE organization who was bombed in Philadelphia. They talking about the Tulsa race massacre in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They talk about all of this stuff. Oh no, the 13 families that run the world. These various old families like the Rothschilds. And that's what we're talking about. The first song on our second album was called United Minds, and it's talking about the 13 families. They said, nah, we ain't promoting this. And that's exactly what they didn't do. They didn't promote it. You know what I'm saying? Made sure that died real quick. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, man. No, that's just real. Wild right there. Because when you tell me that, I always suspected. So this was the point that I wanted to make, though. Because, see, what makes me the most angry about hip-hop and music right now is that they would try to tell me and convince me that, no, the murder, the violence, the sex, that's what's selling. Well, you can't convince me that when Speech
Nope.
sold 5 million
That's
records.
exactly right. No.
I don't want to hear that.
No,
I don't want to.
I'm
Some of
with
the
you,
most
bro.
successful music was the most positive music.
Exactly
so
right.
why are you trying to convince me that that's all we want to buy?
That's exactly right. No, that's a lie. It's always been a lie. We've always wanted more diversity, man. And
Yeah.
I go to grade schools and elementary schools, and I did a mini documentary with Jason Orr, one of the famous, amazing dudes here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And called The Nigga Factory. And in that documentary, I play that documentary for young kids. I'm talking about elementary school kids. They ain't never heard of Arrested Development.
Yeah.
They never heard none of our songs. And they totally relate to the content, which is telling them that we are more than this, kill, kill, kill. We're more than that. They totally relate. They totally understand that we are being just, propaganda's being pushed on us about us being criminals and this, that, and the third. And yet they just don't know what else to rock to because it ain't a lot of stuff out there that they can choose from.
Exactly.
But they know that it ain't right. You know what I'm saying? But then they get distracted with the stuff that's popping and they just keep it moving and just go on with their life. But when I come there, they realize it. They talk about it. Like they talk about it. People they smarter than people give them credit for. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Well, Speech, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, bro.
Hey, don't be no stranger now,
No, I
Speech,
will not,
we
man.
here.
No,
we
no,
here
you.
now.
I know you are.
Okay,
I know you are.
Make sure you back in this thing. Be High Radio, shout it.
Be High.
Speech. I'll let y'all in a minute, man. We go.